So Sonicware just released a new firmware version 1.5 for the Ambient Ø, and includes being able to choose different tuning temperaments. So I thought I'd have a quick stab at trying to explain a little bit about what that means. I'm by no means an expert on this. I've just basically looked at Wikipedia and asked my piano teacher a few things over the years about this kind of thing. It's quite interesting, but it's incredibly deep. So I'm not going to dive into absolutely everything there is to know. Just going to kind of show a good example of why it's a thing. So what we're used to hearing in the modern era is what's called equal temperament. That takes adjacent notes and it spaces the pitches out so they sound like they go up by equal amounts. So from this note to this note, it sounds like the same amount of pitch raise as going from this note to this note. It also means if I play something like a fifth or a third or something, so like a fifth would be C to G and C major, that's going to sound the same as in its tonal quality as going from G to D, for example, which is another fifth. So they both sound consonant to us because that's what we're used to hearing. The same is true of like a third. But actually this equal temperament system is not perfect. And in fact, no tuning system is perfect. Some other tuning systems that have come before it were based more closely on what's called the harmonic series. This reflects the way that vibrations happen within strings and within pipes for things like wind instruments. So like you can set up a vibration within a string or a pipe and you can get different ratios of it, so exact pitch ratios. This is something that happens in nature, and again you can look at Wikipedia to delve really deeply into this. Equal temperament doesn't use that, it avoids it because it makes things really complicated. That's where older temperaments come in that we'll look at in a minute. So if you listen to this C to G, sounds quite stable to our ear, so does this major third. But if you listen closely, there's a bit of beating in there. You can hear movement as it churns round. That's because this isn't perfect. If we change the temperament to a pure major and then play the same thing, you can hear that's much more stable. It sounds kind of locked or synced compared to equal temperament. That's because this sets out G above middle C. This sets out G above C to be an exact ratio, and it also moves the E to be closer. It's not exactly, still a little tiny bit of movement in there. This means that when we're playing a tune in C major, this is going to sound quite tidy, but it comes with a downside. So this is G's been moved, so this sounds nice, but this fifth now sounds massively out of tune. So, and this third, C to E, sounds nice and tidy, but if we shift up by one semitone, creating another major third, that one now sounds off. So this was common when things like string instruments and things could play a tune, but it basically meant that the players had to change their notes within a chord to match the other players. And then when things like keyboard instruments came along, which only had one tuned string per note, this made things really difficult. If you tuned a piano to a pure major or just intonation, as it's also called, if you then wanted to play a song that was in a different key, you had to get another piano. That's why people came up with the equal temperament system, I think. Don't quote me on that. But this makes things even more complicated than you'd imagine, because obviously this tuning setup is made to play in C major. If I wanted a pure major scale in a different key, that's going to move all these notes around. So we could do that on the Ambient Ø too by holding one of the track buttons and changing this. So that's a C, so we can change it to anything we want. and that moves the in tune and out of tune intervals around by the same amount to access different scales. As well as the pure major temperament, we've got pure minor, Pythagorean sharp, and Pythagorean flat. These are just different systems that make different compromises in different ways. So we've got 4 different tuning systems, and they all have access to being able to play them from different root notes. So the jam I uploaded earlier, if we play that and change this root note, you're going to hear that's kind of shifting things around and making them a little bit wonky. So that's one set of options on the new firmware. All these temperaments I've mentioned so far, equal temperament, the 2 pure minor and major or just intonation temperaments, and then the Pythagorean temperaments are all about moving around these notes so they sound better in harmony with each other than the equal temperament that we talked about at the start. But then beyond that, we've got these other options. So I think this is pronounced Solfeggio tuning, chakra, and planetary. So these aren't the same. Some people believe that different frequencies can promote healing. So the Solfeggio and the chakra and the planet tunings are all about that. They give us some different options. So on the other temperaments we talked about, we can only change the pattern by key. So if I change this to A, all these layers will change. Whereas on these ones, these 3, so if I choose, say, the chakra, I can change a layer to make it different. In fact, let's go back to the Solfeggio one first, because this is slightly different. So if I play this now, it will sound very different. But we can see that we've got access to these different frequencies here. So this changes the C to match this frequency, and we can go through and we've got these different ones. So I can change this melody to a completely different tuning to everything else. So whether you want to use this for the kind of healing properties that we talked about, or just to abuse it for experimental music, personally I'm going to do the latter. It's up to you. And beyond that, obviously we've got these chakra and planetary ones. These work in a similar way. So we've just got, no, don't mute. So we've got first chakra, second, and so on. And these will do a similar thing. So we can push the tuning around of the different layers independently of each other, whereas on the temperaments we talked about at the start, equal, pure, and Pythagorean, we can't. So I hope that's helped kind of just sort of sketch out the options we've got now on the Ambient Zero. It's quite a lot of stuff to play with. It's opened up, lots of options for experimental music and that kind of stuff. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you.